Hello and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses Show, the only podcast in real estate investing that teaches what you need to know to find and flip deals right now. Wow. Break free the chains that are holding you back and join us on this episode with Jason Lucchesi.
Hey, what's up? It's Jason Lucchesi, and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses Show. I am so excited that you are here with us today. I've got a really great guest lined up, and he's going to be discussing some really cool strategies that he's using within his business to get some amazing deals and to also build up cash flow for his company. I've got Mr. Ryan Dossey with us today. Ryan, how are you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. I'm really pumped about this. You and I had lunch not too long ago. We were talking about some really cool things. But for folks that don't know you, I know you've come out with a really, really great platform, and you're doing some amazing things from an investor standpoint. So if you wouldn't mind, can you share a little bit about yourself and what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Ryan Dossey. I'm a buy and hold, primarily real estate investor based out of the Indianapolis market. We've also started to buy stuff in St. Louis, Missouri, and Louisville, Kentucky. We focus primarily on like A to B class assets. I'm also the founder of an answering service known as Call Porter. We take calls for some of the largest names in real estate investing and growing every single month. I've done some flipping. I've done quite a bit of wholesaling, but buy and hold is really my focus now.
Nice, man. Nice. And you're doing multiple markets, which is huge. Did you start off always doing multiple markets within your investing business, or how did that start off for you?
No, not really. So initially I was, I'm actually from St. Louis. I've only been in Indianapolis for 3-4 years now.
Okay.
So it was always kind of a natural like market. It's where I got started. And we knew a local guy who had really impressed me, who we reached out to see if he kind of wanted to be an equity owner and what we were going to do there, kind of be our boots on the ground. And similar with Kentucky, it's kind of like the Marriott model where, you know, I didn't set out to build an answering service. I didn't even set out to really get into, well, I mean, cash flow is always my game, but I didn't know this was where I would end up, right? It's more just been kind of following the opportunity as we go of, you know, with our answering service, we realized there's this gaping hole and nobody really wants to take their calls, myself included, right?
Right.
As investors, naturally we're lazy, right?
Yes.
So these were kind of similar of just, you know, St. Louis, I always knew that I would most likely end up doing stuff there because I lived there for 10 years. I know the neighborhoods, I know the market, I know the players. And then Louisville was honestly, our ground partner there is somebody who hit me up through Instagram.
Oh, nice.
Reached out to me with one of those, like, you know, how do I get started in real estate investing? You know, direct messages.
Yep.
And we ended up on a call, and I don't know why, but I spent a lot of time and just gave him like, hey, here's what I would do. It's about an hour or two. And, you know, I've done that before, and you get the same stuff I get. I never hear back from these guys. And about 30 days later, he hit me up and was like, hey, man, you know, just did my first couple deals. I cleared like $34,000. And I was like, okay, you actually did what I told you to do. So I was super impressed with him and just kind of, hey, you know, Louisville's about an hour away from me. I think it makes sense for me to end up owning stuff there. Are you interested in this? And it was kind of funny because originally he gave us quite a bit of pushback, like, you know, I don't know. You know, I don't really know that I want somebody to fund all my rentals for me and teach me how to do all this, which was kind of like, this is not a hard sell. like I know people that would help with this opportunity. And finally he was like, yeah, you know what, let's do it. And that was probably 5 or 6 months ago, and we've bought 5 or 6 rentals there so far. So nothing crazy, but he's off to a good start.
Nice, man. Nice. So let's back it up for our listeners that are on with us right now. Let's take it back to when you got started as a real estate investor. What kind of gave you that like aha moment, or maybe just like, I'm gonna test out this real estate investing thing? Like, how long ago was that? And, you know, tell us how you did your first deal.
Yeah, so it was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago now at this point. I'm from St. Louis, so like a lot of people there, I did car warranty sales. which is like not something I'm super proud of, but I was very good at it.
Right.
So, you know, I was kind of from that sales type background, but I absolutely hated the job. Beyond miserable. I mean, I'd go into work every day thinking like, you know, if they fired me, that'd be good. You know.
That's too
So
funny.
yeah, and it was one of those, you know, commission started out way up here, and then it just kind of every year I made less and less money doing the same amount of production. So, you know, my final year, I think I was on pace to gross pre-tax a whopping $20,000 doing
Oh, wow.
sales. Yeah, it's absolutely miserable. And I've always been a car guy. So it's actually what originally drew me to real estate. You know, you Google like, how do people get to drive Ferraris or Lamborghinis or whatever, right? And it was all like, you know, real estate's where X amount of people, I don't know the stat, but, you know, X amount of people make their millions, so on and so forth. So I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like probably every other guest you've ever interviewed and asked this question to. And, you know, it got me like really like fired up. I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. But then it doesn't tell you anything. Like I had all these like cool aspirations, but like no clue what to do. So I actually stumbled on Bigger Pockets, actually looking for other books to read. I remember Googling books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and something came up that was basically about, you know, the whole Rich Dad franchise being what it is.
Yeah.
And so I created an account. I'd always been pretty big on forums. You know, I used to restore motorcycles and stuff and learn how to do all that just from reading posts. So I kind of just hopped in. It's funny because if you follow me on Bigger Pockets, you can go see my first like 500 posts, which are hilariously embarrassing. Of just like, hey, I have absolutely no money, like no money, but I have okay credit. Kind of what do we do, right? And everybody was pretty much like, well, you know, just keep saving money and, you know, maybe one day. And I was like, that doesn't work for me. So I stumbled kind of onto this concept called wholesaling, and me and a coworker said, hey, let's give this a try. So I put $1,200 on a credit card that I could not afford to pay off. Did not tell my wife. Newly married, like dead broke. And our first month, we did our first deal, and our profit after reimbursing our marketing costs was like $12,000.
Nice.
So, you know, as somebody who was making less than 24K a year, I thought about how many miserable days I'd have to do sales to make that amount of money, and the fact that it took me like realistically 6 hours. So I was kind of like, there's something to this. I kind of like half tried for the next couple of years. I kind of did it like it was like my side hustle, right?
Sure.
Really, it was my side hustle because I didn't have the cojones to go all in on it, right? It's like, oh no, it's fine because it's a side hustle. So if it's not doing well, or if I'm not giving it, like, oh, it's just my side thing.
Right.
So I did that pretty much till we moved out here to Indianapolis. I've never had a problem betting on myself, and fortunately, I haven't lost yet. So when we came out here, I wholesaled a deal and had $5,000. And I mean, like I had $5,000 to my name. This wasn't like I had like side fund money to play with. And I remember telling my wife, like, yeah, so I'm going to go full time now. And you start to do the math, and it's like, well, our budget's like $3,500 a month. And then there's marketing, and how's this going to work? And you know, it did. Still here. So.
Nice, man. Nice. So what made you stumble? Well, not stumble. I don't know if I would say stumble, but what made you come on with the idea of Call Porter? Was it because you were doing all of the calls, taking all those calls yourself, and you just wanted to try and figure something out that would maybe be easier? Like what made you come up with Call Porter? And for those people that don't know what that is, maybe kind of explain that as well.
Yeah. So Call Porter, we're a inbound and outbound answering and call center service just for real estate investors. So we don't take calls, you know, like Pat Live. A lot of these people will take calls from anybody that'll throw money at them. All we do is deal with motivated sellers. So our staff are trained in things like, you know, pre-foreclosure, eviction, probate, they understand kind of all the nuances of this, like, hey, I'm going through foreclosure, okay, great, redemption rights, like they understand all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
They'll screen for like equity, motivation, condition, and actually book an appointment with sellers on that initial call.
Nice.
So how we started this, and it had, we called it Manage Like a CEO initially, which really was kind of like our mission. My dad always owned his own companies, and they never really went well.
Oh, okay.
His problem was he had to do everything himself. So I realized after kind of doing like the hustling, grinding, BS trap that everybody ends up in, like I can only get this so big by myself.
Right.
My background, was in kind of these hardcore one call close. I'm very, very good on the phone. I actually really still enjoy doing sales. But I'm not a detail oriented person. So my problem was I'd get a call. I didn't want to get yelled at, right? So like everybody else, I'd let it go to voicemail. And then I'd listen to it. And like, if there wasn't a hint of aggression in their voice, then I'd decide to call them back. But my problem was I couldn't keep straight who called when and where. So I'd call a lady back. She'd tell me never to call her ever again and wish all kinds of terrible things upon my family. And then I'd think I'd call the next number, but I'd call her right back. So like I realized, okay, I'm at the point where I'm getting too many calls. I'm not picking them up live. And I know the statistics say that I should be. So we tried Pat Live. We tried some of the other alternatives, and I just like was not impressed. So being from St. Louis and knowing all of these folks kind of in the car warranty industry,
yeah,
I knew a lot of really, really good phone people who hated their jobs. So I hired one gal. I said, hey, come work with me. You're going to take calls for me. Here's what you're going to do. And then it just kind of grew from there. Like friends were like, well, hey, can she take my calls? And then it got to the point where like, wow, we have too many calls for one person. So we hired another and another. And we kind of just did like the word of mouth deal for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And then I decided, my mission with this really kind of transformed to, hey, I just didn't want to have to take my calls, to I wanted to change the way people approach real estate investing. Direct to seller marketing in particular, most people are afraid of the negative calls, the negative, having to dig through all the crap to get to a deal, right? So it really kind of changed to wanting to revolutionize the way people are buying investment properties. So we realized in order to really hit that mission and really kind of make an impact and change this, we've got to change this into something that we can really push and build right. So, the last year and a half has been really, really cool. We take as many as 10,000 calls a month for motivated sellers.
Nice.
We've got like 150 to 200 companies that we work with currently around the country. We are featured in Forbes as like one of the top 7 tools entrepreneurs need to know about. We've had a lot of really, really cool success with it, and it's new opportunities and stuff is just kind of happening every single month at this point.
No, that's awesome, man. I know when you and I sat down, we were able to have lunch and we spoke about it. You were able to give me a really good breakdown of what you guys do. And I was really, really impressed. And obviously we're friends on Facebook, and I see all the article publications that you guys are featured in, which is awesome. Hands off to you guys. You guys are obviously doing something right over there. And I know some of the guys that are, with your service, and they have nothing but great things to say about it. For somebody that's getting started in the business, and maybe they're doing about 2,000, 3,000 mailers a month, would it be something for them to do to go through you guys, or what is typically like the threshold that you would recommend for somebody to start using you guys?
Good question. So really our minimum is pretty much 2,000 pieces of mail a month. At that pricing, we're like $400 a month. I think that covers you up to like 25 or 50 calls. I'm honestly not over sales anymore, so I couldn't give you the exact, which, goals as a business owner, right?
Right.
But, really the way I look at it, and the way most of our clients look at it, is like, can you afford to miss calls? Are you answering all of your calls? Like, even if you only send me 10 calls a month, and you do it like you do the really cynical math of like, oh, I'm paying $40 a phone call. Were you going to pick up all of those?
Right.
If not, if you're missing calls, if you're letting stuff go to voicemail, you're leaving money on the table. So, the way I look at it is, if over the course of a year we get you one more deal, Jason, I don't know your average profit. Ours is 12,500, 15 grand on a wholesale on typical. That's paid for the answering service for 3 years.
Right.
So it's one of those, like, one of the gals who works with us was just telling me, she was like, investors are funny because, like, a lot of them have a lot of money, but they're also like some of the cheapest people you've ever met when it comes to, like, oh, you took, 200 calls. Why is my bill this much? Well, it's outlined in your pricing. So, really I think it's more just one of those, like, we've got clients who are doctors, firefighters, business owners. If you're not somebody who can pick up like every single phone call, I just had a good call with one of our clients recently, and he told me when they hired us, their goal was to get their missed calls below 20%, which is, like, I can't imagine missing 20% of calls. Last month, we picked up 99.04% of all calls. We missed less than 0.6% of calls.
Jeez.
For anybody who's never worked in a call center or ran a call center, like, it would be incredible number was if we could be at less than 5%. So our new number is our bare minimum. We have to be less than 1%. And we incentivize our staff to do that. Like, guys, they take all my calls. I send a lot of mail. I spend a lot of money on marketing. So, you think you're going to be upset if they miss calls? I'm going to be just as upset. So instead of paying our staff to, like, throw crap at the wall and try to, like, book appointments for you, right? Or anything like that, we pay them based off of how fast they pick their phones up and what percentage of their shift they're actually logged in available for incoming calls. So they're incentivized to make sure all of your calls are picked up live. Our average call is answered in less than 12 seconds.
Wow.
So no 45-second, minute-long hold times or anything like that. The one other thing I'll throw out there, just because I know no investors do this, on the hour, every hour, if a seller calls in and picks up, pick up, hang up, right? It rings for 3 seconds or even rings once. Most investors, they're not motivated. They didn't leave a voicemail, right? With us, any abandoned lead like that, somebody that hangs up before we call them, our system automatically dials and calls them. And we manually are calling those on the hour, every single hour for our clients. No investors even working their leads that hard. Wow.
That's awesome, man. And, as I'm thinking about this, for somebody that's maybe getting started, maybe they have done a deal and they're seeing this episode or listening to this episode, and they're like, well, I could do that myself. And for the most part, I would say good luck. But what Ryan has is he's got the people that already know everything on what to say. And there's skilled individuals for taking inbound and doing outbound calls. And it's something that probably, Ryan, you had to train these people extensively on to know real estate terms and how to book the right appointments and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, so it's like they're required to ask for an asking price twice. They're required to ask if it's flexible. They've got like 4 different ways to ask about the condition of the property. It's all how to win friends and influence people based. So we don't like slam these people through like a 60-point questionnaire.
Right.
We're not like how many beds, how many baths, how many square feet, all that stuff you can Google. It's much more like, hey, John, what do I need to know about the condition of your property? Oh, you think it's fine. Well, hey, everybody's got a honey-do list. What does yours look like? Oh, you've got nothing on there. Tell you what, you want a gift card for 20 grand to Lowe's. What would you remodel? Nice. You're going to figure out what this thing looks like, through the phone. Right. And the other thing too, is like, sure, you can do this yourself. I don't care how much mail you do. My staff is going to take more calls than you'll ever take. We take, more calls in a month than most people will take in their entire career. But even that being said, even if you're somebody like me who's really, really good on the phone, are you going to hop out of a movie on a Friday night to take a call? I can tell you, my wife, that didn't go well for me. You can only hop up from dinner with like, hey, it's a seller call so many times. But not only that, is that the highest and best use of your time? Like
Right.
I know people who make their acquisitions guys take calls. I don't let my acquisitions guys take calls, because the highest and best use of a closer is not talking to unqualified, unmotivated prospects.
I like
Plain and
that.
simple.
I like that a lot, man. That's smart. And that's it. You're talking from a CEO standpoint, and most people don't understand
Absolutely.
that. They don't understand that. They get into the business right off the bat. And yeah, for the first few months, it's probably going to be you figuring things out. But then you're starting to put on the CEO cap. And that's when you start figuring out services like Call Porter that could really help you get out of the business and start working on the business. And that's when the growth really happens, which I'm sure once you started figuring that out for yourself, Ryan, when you were, doing a lot of this yourself and you were able to get Call Porter into play for your business, that's probably when you were starting to see really good growth, because you're buying properties now that you're putting private money in place, and you're buying long-term properties that are going to constantly be bringing in cash flow for you. Would you have been in that spot? Would you have been able to do this stuff right now if you wouldn't have been able to put together what you have with Call Porter? Do you think that would have?
No. I mean, my goal behind Call Porter, like I have people like, oh, you do that more than real estate, which is crap. Real estate pays me way more than our answering service ever will. But really what's in it for me is to meet people who have day jobs who are like, there's no other way I could buy houses. One of our clients, one of my favorite reviews he gave, somebody was like, what's the deal with these Call Porter people? And his reply was, man, really, I don't know. All I can tell you is I get more deals with them than I do without. I started Call Porter, I think it was like end of 2016. 2016, guys, I did 5 deals. 2017, I did 74.
Nice. That's a big jump.
I mean, something started working better, right? So that, and then the whole goal is you get an acquisitions manager, which, as most of us know, you can pay based off of a draw or on a commission structure. So you're not fronting a whole bunch of capital, which don't be the tool who hires a commission employee when you don't have any leads for them to work. But,
right.
It's, I was in Hawaii and literally laying on like this incredible beach, get a text from the team with, hey, we just locked this up. And it was like $175,000 house that needs 10 grand in work that they picked up for like 103. And
wow,
I was like,
nice,
sweet. I didn't take the call. I didn't run the appointment. I wasn't really involved in it. And that was my whole goal from the beginning, is to really own a business that's an asset that can function independently of me. I love to travel. So I didn't want to be, the whole like one man show deal just wasn't in the cards for me.
Right. No, I hear you. That's awesome, man. When you could be on the beach and your team locks up a deal for you like that, that's a pretty great feeling for sure. So as we're winding down here to the show, man, I want to just find this out, since from a statistical standpoint, if you're okay with sharing this. What do you feel like investors that are maybe just getting started, or maybe they're struggling from a marketing perspective, what are you seeing is working kind of like the best, as far as maybe like a marketing piece, and who to maybe do that marketing piece to in order to receive the appointments that Call Porter would be able to do for folks? If you don't mind sharing some of that, maybe if you have that data.
No, I don't. So there's a couple things I'd recommend. First and foremost, Deal Machine has incredible statistics on the conversion of their pieces to sellers. It's like 287 postcards sent on a 6-month sequence is their average to get a deal. So if you're brand new and you've got like the drive, you're like, hey, I want to get this going. That's where I would send you. Go use the Deal Machine app, snap some pictures, get some postcards popping out, and get this to go from. My favorite part with the first deal is you've taken this from a concept to something that has physically paid you. For a lot of us with spouses, they don't get it till they see that it works, right? then it's like, I've got good friends that are like, man, I think what you do is a scam. And it's like, I mean, I've got a lot of real estate that disagrees with that,
Right.
So I would say that, or what I really do, we focus on building niche lists, and a lot of people spend almost no time on their data, not much time on their marketing. It's almost like a pyramid, right? And then, then they try to we've spent no time on anything, but we're going to try to really work like these 3 leads that came in. How I try to do stuff, I try to spend a lot of time on my data, on my list processing, on the design of my mail piece, where it then kind of weeds out into this funnel of really, really good workable leads.
Yep.
So, things like driving for dollars, a lot of the times that's the stuff people don't want to do. Divorce, pre-foreclosure, eviction, probate, any of that kind of stuff you can get your hands on. You're dealing with people that are in a position that they need to sell. My last deal I just posted about on Facebook, Jason, that you probably saw, I think it was number 47 for the year for our buy and holds. $184,000 house that we picked up for $104,000. We've got to put 24 into it. Perfect bird deal. Came off of a mailing campaign to 287 people.
Nice. And a lot of people think they need to be sending out those gargantuan numbers too. Hey, I need to send out 5,000 postcards and all that kind of stuff.
I won't, I won't pretend I don't do a lot of mail. We send 500 pieces of mail a day is our minimum goal. So that's 10,000 pieces of mail a month. Yeah. Guys, I still clean up on absentee. We get a deal for about every 1,500, 2,000 pieces we send. Even that's great. My one sign off I'll throw as somebody who does a ton of mail. If you ever have anybody tell you that you need to mail the same list for 6 months, or that you need to budget to mail a list for 6 months before you get a deal, that's crap. I'm not that patient. I'm not going to throw money down the drain for 5 months and hope and pray on the 6th month. So, mail quality data, use wisdom. People ask me how many times I hit somebody. My big thing, I try to get them into my funnel. I can hit them a million freaking times through digital marketing at, a cent a piece. If I get the qualified prospects into kind of our online funnels. Yep. So, the principle of touches, I totally agree with it, but that doesn't mean each of those touches has to cost you $1.25.
I agree with you on that. For sure, man. I always like to ask this question to our experts that join us on the show. Do you have any books that you would recommend, like an entrepreneur book, self-help book, business leadership book? Do you have a book that's, that you've read within the last 6 months that you would recommend to our listeners?
So I've got 2. Okay. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Nice.
Is literally the granddaddy of all self-help books. Absolutely incredible. I mean, it's like a read, but it's the stuff that's in there is awesome. And then I'm almost done with Extreme Ownership.
Oh, that's a good book.
Absolutely love it. I've given it to a couple guys on my team, but as a business owner, understanding the Navy SEALs are obviously good at what they do, right? So
Right.
anything we can borrow from the elite fighting force of the world and apply to our businesses, it's a gold mine. Not to mention, if you're a guy, it's pretty interesting to listen to, because it's we kicked in this door and shot this dude 17 times in the chest. So you're this has my attention. It's not it's kind of watching an action movie versus a chick flick. A lot of the self-help books tend to be kind of I'm kind of bored, but I'll keep going. This one, I've thoroughly enjoyed going through.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's, I've listened to it on audio, and it's actually those guys giving it, and you could tell by the tonality of their voice. I love that book. I gave it to Mike, who's on the team, and I think Mike's going through it now, and he's a retired Marine, so a lot of that stuff he's able to kind of
I mean, one of them sounds like he drinks sand. So, it's like, okay, this dude's legit.
Yeah, he was able to find some hydration through sand in order to keep himself alive. That's too funny. So, man, two things. How can people find out about your service, and any parting words for our listeners?
So I think you're going to throw up a link for Call Porter. Me personally, you guys can either add me on Facebook, Instagram, or I throw out some content on YouTube. I'm also on Bigger Pockets, but I'm not super active there anymore. Final parting words I've got for you guys. So many people pull back in December. They think, oh, with the holidays, I should pause my marketing. Guys, I started 2018 with 8 deals in the first week of January because I went hard. One thing I'd recommend doing if you've been active the past year, go back through every single seller you've spoken with, cold call them and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, I've got a new option I'm working right now where I can actually pay more than I've been able to historically in the past. Is it all right if we set up another walkthrough and see if we can't get this deal done? Some of my deals in 2018, I used that approach on. I went out and offered them less money and got the deal.
Awesome,
man. Don't be a wimp just because it's December. And, guys, if you've got a pipeline with a couple hundred leads in it, you literally have deals just sitting in your CRM, in your spreadsheets, in your inbox. Go through, put in the actual work and you'll get the results.
I love that, dude. I love that. Those are great parting words. And for folks that want to find more out about Call Porter, we've got noflippingexcuses.com/Call Porter. You can go check that out. So if you're wanting Ryan and his team to handle those inbound calls for you, highly, highly recommend it. So noflippingexcuses.com/Call Porter. But other than that, thank you for joining us today on the No Flipping Excuses show. If there's anything that you need from us, you could always check us out in the show notes. We're here for you. Ask us questions. We'll respond to you. If you want to send us an email, it's support@jasonluchesi.com. That is support@JasonLuchesi.com. And we will talk to you soon. Ryan, I'd like to thank you for joining us on the show. It's been a really awesome show, man. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, we will talk to you later. Everybody that's listening, go flip a house. We'll talk to you later. Bye now.